Eat it. Clara's voice cut through the room like shattered glass. Eat it, you village witch! The small room in the boys' quarters smelled wrong, not just of menthol bomb or old age, but of food that had been deliberately left to rot. A bowl hovered inches from Mama Eliza's trembling mouth, dark liquid sloshing with every violent shove. Clara had crushed the pills herself. She just needed Mama Eliza to swallow. Eat it, Clara hissed again. You think I don't know what you're doing? Mama Eliza's frail hands pushed weakly against Clara's wrist. Fingers that had once scrubbed other people's floors from sunrise to nightfall now shook, powerless. The spoon scraped against her teeth. Some of the liquid spilled down her chin, soaking into the faded blue wrapper she wore. My daughter, Mama Eliza whispered, her voice breaking. Please, something is wrong with this food. Clara laughed. Not humor, not joy. Something sharp, unstable. Wrong? She spat. What's wrong is you pretending to be harmless while you steal my life. She leaned closer. Her blood-red designer dress brushed Mama Eliza's knees. Diamonds flashed on her wrist, glittering under the bare bulb overhead. You think I don't know about the house? Clara whispered viciously. You think I don't see how you play humble while you position yourself? Behind them, Christmas mocked everything. White fairy lights blinked softly through the window. Carol music drifted faintly from somewhere in the compound. On a small table near the door, a plastic nativity scene sat perfectly arranged. Mary kneeling, baby Jesus wrapped in peace. Clara shoved the spoon again. Eat it. Mom Eliza turned her head and gagged. The smell hit her fully now. Rotten. Spoiled. Her stomach twisted violently. I never asked Patrick for anything, she cried softly. I swear before God, I never... Clara grabbed her jaw. Hard. Manicured fingers dug into weathered skin, forcing her mouth open. You old women are all the same. Clara snapped. You pretend to be saints while draining everything from men who owe you nothing. Mama Eliza whimpered, her frail hands pushing uselessly against Clara's arm. Her body trembled, not just from fear but confusion. This was the woman she had prayed for, the wife she had thanked God for bringing into her son's life. Why do you hate me? Mama Eliza whispered through tears. What did I do? You exist, Clara said coldly. That's what you did. This wasn't rage. This was Clara protecting what she believed was hers. She lifted the bowl higher. What Clara didn't know was that within the next 60 minutes, everything she loved, her marriage, her reputation, her wealth, would begin to collapse. Because secrets don't stay buried forever, and cruelty always leaves witnesses. Then, the front door opened. Shopping bags hit the marble floor with dull thuds. Clara! Patrick's voice sliced through the room. What are you doing to my mother? Time froze. Clara stood mid-motion, the bowl still raised. Mama Eliza slumped forward in her chair, coughing weakly as dark liquid dripped onto her wrapper. Red marks bloomed along her jaw where Clara's fingers had been. Behind Patrick, Christmas lights glowed warmly. Wrapping paper peeked from the fallen bags. Gifts meant for joy, for celebration. Patrick stepped forward. His eyes moved slowly. From the bowl, to the spilled food, to his mother's trembling body. What? He said quietly, dangerously. Have you done? Clara said nothing, but one question now hung heavier than anything else. Why would a billionaire's wife risk everything on Christmas Eve? Because this isn't a story about inheritance. It's about how greed disguises itself as fear, how poisonous advice sounds like protection, and how one act of cruelty toward the woman who sacrificed everything can destroy the future you? What have you done? Patrick's voice was calm, too calm. If Patrick believed Clara in the next few minutes, Mama Eliza would be sent away tonight, labeled unstable, dangerous, no longer safe to live in his home. Clara lowered the bowl slowly, as if only now realizing it was in her hands. Her face rearranged itself in seconds, rage melting into concern, violence reshaping into worry. Thank God you're home, she said breathlessly. Patrick, something is wrong with your mother. Mama Eliza coughed weakly. Her body sagged forward, her breathing uneven now, shallow in a way that made panic claw at Patrick's chest. The pills Clara had crushed were already working, stealing strength, clouding her mind. Patrick stepped toward her instinctively. Clara moved first. She's been like this all evening. Clara continued quickly, positioning herself between them. Confused. Refusing food. Saying strange things. I was only trying to help her. Patrick stopped. His eyes moved past Clara, to the red marks blooming along his mother's jaw, to the food splattered across the floor, to the bowl still dripping dark liquid. "Step aside," he said quietly. "Clara didn't. She accused me of trying to hurt her." Clara added, her voice cracking perfectly. "Patrick, your mother thinks I'm her enemy." Patrick inhaled slowly. He had built a billionaire empire by noticing what others missed. Tiny inconsistencies, details that didn't belong. And everything in this room was wrong. The smell reached him. Sour. Rotten. He glanced briefly toward the corner of the ceiling, then back at Clara. Patrick knelt beside his mother, cupping her face gently. The same face Clara had gripped with cruelty moments earlier. "Mama," he said softly. "Look at me." "What happened?" Mama Eliza's lips moved, but the words tangled. Her fingers twitched once, then fell still. She whispered finally. "She said I'm stealing, that I took everything." Patrick's jaw tightened. He reached for the bowl, lifted it, smelled it. The food was unmistakably spoiled, not accidentally, deliberately. He stood. The air shifted. "The food is rotten," Patrick said flatly. Clara blinked. "What?" "It's rotten," he repeated. "Why were you trying to make my mother eat rotten food?" Clara laughed nervously. "Patrick, maybe it went bad. I didn't notice. I was only trying to— My mother has never refused food." He cut in. In her entire life. Silence slammed into the room. Clara's fingers curled into her dress. "You're overreacting," she said quickly. "She's old. Old people get confused. They imagine things. I was only—" Patrick stepped closer. "Try again," he said quietly. "And this time, tell me the truth." Patrick realized then this wasn't panic. This was a perfect lie. Fear finally cracked Clara's composure. She couldn't let him believe his mother over her. Not now. Not after everything. Then she remembered it. The weapon. The secret she had been saving. The one she believed. Would end this conversation instantly. "You want the truth?" Clara snapped. Patrick didn't answer. "The truth," she said, her voice hardening, "is that your precious mother has been manipulating you your entire life." Mama Eliza gasped. Patrick froze. "She's not the saint you think she is." Clara pressed on. "She's been lying to you, positioning herself, controlling you through guilt." Patrick turned slowly toward her. "What are you saying?" Clara lifted her chin. "The truth is, she's not even your real mother." The words hit like glass shattering. Mama Eliza sobbed, her body trembling. Patrick stared at Clara. "She found you," Clara continued desperately. "Abandoned under a bridge. Some university girl threw you away like trash, and she picked you up. That's the truth she's been hiding from you for 35 years. Clara waited. For rage. For betrayal. For Patrick to turn on the woman behind him. But his face didn't break. It changed. Recognition passed through his eyes. Then clarity. "I know," Patrick said quietly. Clara frowned. "What?" "I know," he repeated. Mama Eliza broke down completely. Patrick knelt beside her, taking her trembling hands in his. "I've known since I was 20, he said gently. "I found the newspaper clipping you hid. The date, the place." Mama Eliza shook her head, sobbing. "I wanted to tell you." "You chose me," Patrick said firmly. "That's what mattered." He stood, and finally, he looked at Clara, not with anger, with disappointment so deep it felt like grief. "You thought this would turn me against her," he said. "That tells me everything I need to know about you." Clara's mouth opened. No words came, because the secret she believed would save her had just destroyed her, and she still didn't know the worst part. She still didn't know what the cameras had already recorded. Clara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She stood perfectly still as Patrick turned away from her and knelt beside his mother, his full attention shifting to the woman slumped in the chair. That was the moment Clara felt it. She was no longer the center of his world. And what Clara didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the decision she made that night would put Mama Eliza In a hospital bed before Christmas, the house felt different suddenly. Smaller, colder, like it no longer belonged to her. 3 weeks earlier, Clara had believed she owned everything. The Lecky Phase 1 mansion, the silk sheets, the drivers waiting at a snap of her fingers, the life other women watched through phone screens and whispered about in salons. She had married well. Everyone said it. Patrick was gentle, generous, brilliant, a self-made billionaire who never raised his voice and never embarrassed her in public. He treated her like something precious, consulted her, praised her, introduced her everywhere as my brilliant wife. For 3 years, Clara had lived in paradise, but paradise, she would later realize, had come with a shadow. Mama Eliza, the quiet old woman in the boys' quarters who asked for nothing, who wore faded wrappers and prayed endlessly, who spoke softly and somehow always had Patrick's ear. He called her every morning. He brought her food himself instead of sending the housekeepers. He sat with her in the evenings, speaking in low tones Clara couldn't understand, laughing at jokes she wasn't part of. At first, Clara told herself she was being mature. She raised him. Of course he loves her. But love, when watched too closely, begins to look like loyalty. And loyalty, when you're afraid of losing everything, can start to feel like competition. The first crack appeared on a quiet Wednesday afternoon. Patrick was out inspecting a site. Clara was looking for her iPad charger in his study, a room she rarely entered. His space, his territory. Then she saw the folder, cream-colored, neatly placed on the desk. 3 words written in Patrick's careful handwriting. Christmas surprise. Her heart lifted. A surprise for me. Jewelry. A car. A vacation she could post without pretending it was low-key. She opened the folder. The first document stopped her cold. Property deed. Her eyes raced through the page. 2-bedroom detached bungalow. Divine Estate Aja. Registered owner, Eliza Akono. Clara's fingers tightened around the paper. 45 million naira. Paid in full. Her name wasn't on it. Her opinion hadn't been asked for. It was done. She flipped to the handwritten note. For Mama, who gave me everything when she had nothing. Your own home at last. Merry Christmas. Clara didn't feel touched. She felt invaded. A house. Not rent. Not allowance. Ownership. If he could transfer property into his mother's name without telling his wife, what else had he transferred? Her mind did what frightened minds always do. What accounts exist I don't know about? What happens if he dies? What will the will say? She didn't see gratitude. She saw strategy. She didn't see a son honoring sacrifice. She saw an old woman quietly securing power. And that was when Clara made her second mistake. She didn't talk to her husband. She called her friend. Ngozi arrived the next day like she always did. Wine bottle in hand. Dressed in imitation luxury. Settling into Clara's world with practiced ease. Ngozi had always smiled the loudest when Clara succeeded. She listened carefully, then smiled again. I told you, she said softly. That smile planted the poison. She's playing the long game, Ngozi continued. Old women like that don't ask for much. They position themselves. First it's the boys' quarters, then it's meals, now it's property. Clara felt something shift inside her chest, fear dressing itself up as logic. And if you don't act first, Ngozi added calmly, you'll be the one living in the boys' quarters one day. That night, as Patrick slept beside her, Clara stared at the ceiling and imagined losing everything. The house, the life, the security she had clawed her way into. By the end of that week, Clara would buy the pills, and once fear convinced her she was under attack, cruelty began to feel like self-defense. Ngozi didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She sat comfortably in Clara's sunlit living room, legs crossed, wine glass balanced loosely in her hand, speaking with the calm certainty of someone offering protection, not destruction. Think about it logically, she said. If Patrick really believed his mother was fine, he wouldn't be spending this kind of money on her. Clara stared at the glass in her own hand. She hadn't noticed she was shaking until wine sloshed near the rim. She raised him, Clara said weakly. Of course he wants to take care of her. Ngozi smiled, not cruelly, not kindly, knowingly. That's what makes it dangerous, she replied. Guilt is the strongest currency there is. Stronger than love. Stronger than logic. The words slid into Clara's chest and settled there. Ngozi leaned forward, lowering her voice just enough to make it feel intimate. "Tell me something," she said. "Have you actually checked what's in your name?" Clara looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "Accounts, properties, trusts." Ngozi ticked them off on her fingers. "You assume because you're his wife, everything is shared. But men like Patrick don't work that way. They plan, quietly." Clara's stomach tightened. "And old women like Mama Eliza?" Ngozi continued smoothly. "They know how to play that system better than anyone. They don't demand. They wait." Clara imagined it instantly. Patrick defending his mother, family members whispering, friends calling Clara jealous, her being pushed, politely, slowly, out of her own life. "I'm not saying she's evil," Ngozi added, wrapping poison in reassurance. "I'm saying she's positioning herself. And when the time comes, you'll be the wicked wife for objecting." Clara swallowed. "What do I do?" Ngozi paused, just long enough to feel deliberate. "You don't confront Patrick," she said. "He'll choose her." "You don't confront Mama Eliza either. Same problem." She took a slow sip of wine. "You let Patrick see the truth himself." Clara frowned. "How?" "Old people," Ngozi said gently, "become unreliable, confused. They forget things. They say strange things. They make people uncomfortable." Clara's pulse quickened. "If Patrick starts noticing that," Ngozi continued, "he'll start thinking about options. Professional care, assisted living, somewhere safe, somewhere else." Clara's mouth felt dry. "You're saying I should make her look unstable?" Ngozi tilted her head. "I'm saying you should protect your marriage." Ngozi had lost everything once. She never said how. That night, Clara lay awake beside Patrick, listening to his steady breathing, imagining a future where Mama Eliza stayed, and everything else slipped through Clara's fingers. If Clara did nothing, she would lose her life piece by piece. If this went wrong, Mama Eliza wouldn't just be sent away. She might not survive the night. 2 days later, Clara stood inside a pharmacy she had never visited before. She kept her sunglasses on. "I need something for sleep," she said quietly. "Something strong, for an elderly woman." The pharmacist hesitated. "Is anyone else aware of this medication?" Clara didn't blink. "She's been agitated, confused. The doctor is busy." A pause. Then the box slid across the glass. Small, white, unremarkable. Clara paid in cash. As she stepped back into the Lagos heat, the bag felt heavier than it should have, like it already carried consequences. That night she hid the pills in her jewelry drawer, between diamonds and gold, between the life she had built and the line she had just crossed. Clara would use the pills within 48 hours, on Christmas Eve, and once fear convinced her she was under attack, cruelty stopped feeling like a choice. Clara didn't start with poison. Not yet. She started with observation. For 2 days after buying the pills, she watched Mama Eliza the way predators study weakness. Not with rage, but with calculation. She noticed how the old woman moved more slowly in the mornings, how she sometimes paused mid-sentence, searching for a word that refused to come, how her hands trembled slightly when she lifted a cup of tea. "Signs!" Ngozi's voice whispered in her head. "Proof." Clara began to adjust small things. She moved Mama Eliza's slippers from their usual place, changed the position of the chair near the window, switched the sugar and salt containers in the kitchen of the boys' quarters. Nothing dramatic, just enough to confuse. "Mama," Clara said one afternoon, her voice artificially sweet, "you left your shoes outside again." Mama Eliza frowned. "I did?" Clara nodded sympathetically. "You don't remember?" The doubt landed exactly where Clara wanted it. That evening, Patrick mentioned it casually over dinner. "Mama seemed a little disoriented today," he said. She couldn't find her slippers. Clara kept her face neutral. Inside, something cold unfurled. The next morning, she escalated. She crushed half a pill. Just half. She mixed it into Mama Eliza's tea. Careful, precise, her hand steady in a way that scared even her. She stirred slowly until it dissolved completely, then stepped back and waited. Mama Eliza drank it without suspicion. Why wouldn't she? This was her son's house, her daughter-in-law's kitchen, a place she believed was safe. Within minutes, the old woman's eyelids grew heavy. Her words slowed. She sank into her chair, confused but compliant. "Mama, are you okay?" Clara asked loudly, making sure the housekeeper passing the corridor heard her. Mama Eliza nodded weakly. "I am just tired." Patrick arrived home later that evening. Mama Eliza was sleeping. "She's been like this all day," Clara said gently. "I was worried." Patrick frowned. "She didn't call me this morning." Clara touched his arm. She forgot. The word lingered between them. Forgot. That night, Patrick sat beside his mother's bed longer than usual, watching her breathe, unease settling in his chest. Clara stood in the doorway, invisible, victorious. The first test had worked, but it also showed Clara something dangerous. Half a pill wasn't enough. Mama Eliza would recover. And if she recovered too well, the confusion would disappear. And so would Clara's leverage. That night, Clara returned to her jewelry drawer. She took out the box, counted the pills. Then she made the decision that would change everything. Next time she wouldn't measure. Next time she wouldn't test. Next time she would make sure Mama Eliza couldn't explain anything at all. Because Clara no longer wanted doubt. She wanted certainty. Clara didn't hesitate anymore. Hesitation was for people who still believed they had choices. By the third night, she had stopped pretending this was about confusion or care. She stopped moving slippers, stopped switching containers. Those games were too small now. Mama Eliza was recovering. That was the problem. The old woman woke up clearer the next morning. She ate breakfast. She prayed. She even called Patrick on her own. Her voice stronger than it had been in days. "I am fine, my son," Mama Eliza said. "Yesterday was just tiredness." Patrick looked relieved. Clara felt panic claw up her spine. If Mama Eliza returned fully to herself, everything Clara had planted would rot in the light. The doubt, the narrative, the fear. That evening, Clara stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the box of pills in her hand. Ngozi's voice echoed in her head. "If you don't act first, you will lose everything." She opened the box. This time, she didn't break a pill. She crushed Natu. The powder was finer now, quicker, stronger. She mixed it into Mama Eliza's dinner. Rice and stew prepared carefully, lovingly, the way Patrick liked it done. She stirred slowly, watching the powder disappear. No smell, no color, no warning. Mama Eliza ate quietly. Halfway through the meal, her spoon paused mid-air. Her eyes lost focus. "Mama?" Clara said sharply, stepping closer. "Are you all right?" Mama Eliza blinked. I feel..." Her hand slipped. The spoon clattered onto the plate. Mama Eliza tried to stand. Her legs failed. She collapsed back into the chair, breath uneven, confusion washing across her face like fog rolling in fast. Clara's heart slammed violently against her ribs. This was no test. This was danger. "Mama, speak to me," Clara said loudly. Her voice rehearsed, carrying down the corridor. "Mama, what is wrong now?" Mama Eliza's lips trembled. "My chest. It is burning." She reached out blindly. Clara didn't take her hand. Instead, she stepped back. Patrick wasn't home yet. The housekeepers were in the main house. No witnesses. No interruptions. Mama Eliza's breathing became shallow. Her head lolled to the side. For a split second. Just one. Clara felt something crack. Fear. Not for Mama Eliza. For herself. What if this kills her? What if I've gone too far? But the thought didn't stop her. It hardened her. If Mama Eliza survived and remembered this, Clara would be finished. If she didn't survive, Clara's thoughts stopped there. She picked up her phone, not to call an ambulance, to check the time. Patrick's car would be home in 20 minutes. Mama Eliza slid from the chair, collapsing onto the floor with a dull sound that echoed through the small room. Her eyes fluttered. Her body went still. Clara stared down at her. This was no longer about inheritance. This was about survival. And then, from the front of the house, the sound of a car engine cut through the silence. Headlights swept across the compound. Patrick was home. Clara's pulse exploded. She looked down at Mama Eliza's unmoving body, at the empty plate, at the crushed pills dissolving inside her. And she understood something with terrifying clarity. There was no fixing this, only explaining it. And whatever story Clara told next would decide whether she walked away or lost everything forever. Patrick knew something was wrong the moment he stepped out of the car. The compound was too quiet. No radio from the boys' quarters. No movement near the window. No soft humming his mother usually did while preparing for the evening prayer. He walked faster. "Mom?" he called out. No answer. Inside the small room, he froze. Mom Eliza lay on the floor, still. Her plate overturned beside her, rice scattered like evidence. Her chest rose shallowly, uneven, as if her body was struggling to remember how to breathe. "Mom!" Patrick dropped to his knees, lifting her head gently. "Mama, wake up. Look at me." Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Clara stood in the doorway, panicked, shaking. "Perfect." "She collapsed," Clara cried. "I was calling you. I didn't know what to do." Patrick didn't look at her. He reached for his phone. "Emergency call. Speaker on. My mother collapsed," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his chest. "She's not responding properly." As he spoke, his eyes scanned the room. The plate, the spoon, the smell. Something sour. He ignored it. For now. The paramedics arrived fast. Mama Eliza was lifted onto a stretcher, oxygen mask secured, monitors beeping softly. As they wheeled her out, Patrick walked beside her, holding her hand the way he had when he was a child, afraid of thunder. "She's strong," one paramedic said, but whatever she ate didn't agree with her. Clara's breath caught. "Didn't agree with her?" Patrick looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "Could be medication interaction," the paramedic replied. "Sedatives, maybe." Sedatives. The word lodged itself in Patrick's mind like a shard of glass. At the hospital, Mama Eliza was rushed into emergency care. Doctors moved quickly. IVs, tests, questions. Patrick answered everything. Clara hovered. "Watching, waiting. She's stable," a doctor finally said. "But she was given something that suppressed her system. We need to know exactly what." Patrick turned slowly. "What did she take?" Clara opened her mouth, closed it. I gave her tea," she said. "She's been confused lately. I thought she needed rest." Patrick stared at her. The silence stretched. Then Mama Eliza stirred. Her eyes opened just a fraction. Her lips moved. Patrick leaned in instantly. "Mama, I'm here." Her fingers tightened weakly around his. "She?" Mama Eliza whispered, struggling for breath. "She made me—" Her words dissolved into coughing. The nurse intervened, adjusting the mask. "She needs rest. We'll talk later." "Later." Patrick stepped back. His heart was pounding now. Not just with fear, but with something colder. Doubt! For the first time in his life, the idea surfaced, fully formed and terrifying. What if my wife is lying? He looked at Clara. She met his eyes without blinking. Too controlled. Too ready. That night, Patrick sat alone in the hospital corridor staring at his phone. He didn't call family. He didn't call lawyers. He opened an app instead. "Security!" Live feed. The camera icon blinked. Patrick hesitated. If he pressed play, there would be no going back. If he didn't, his mother might never be safe again. He closed his eyes, then tapped the screen. Patrick's thumb hovered over the screen. For years, the security app had been nothing more than routine. A habit, a way to check gates, staff movement, deliveries. He had installed the cameras months ago. Not out of suspicion, but out of caution. Wealth demanded it. He never imagined he would use them like this. The live feed opened. 4 small screens appeared. Front gate, driveway, living room, boys' quarters. Patrick's chest tightened. He tapped the last one. The footage rewound automatically. Timestamp December 23rd, 6:12 p.m. Patrick leaned forward. On the screen, he saw his mother sitting at the small table near the window. Hands folded, head bowed in prayer. The room looked peaceful, ordinary. Then Clara entered. Patrick's jaw clenched. No shouting at first. No violence. Just movement. He watched her place the bowl on the table. Watched her stand too close. Watched his mother look up. Confused. Cautious. Patrick's fingers dug into his palm. The sound was muted, but he didn't need audio. He saw Clara's posture change. Her arm moved sharply. His mother's head jerked to the side. Patrick sucked in a breath. The camera angle caught everything. Clara grabbing Mama Eliza's jaw, forcing the spoon toward her mouth. His mother pushing back weakly. Patrick's vision blurred. "God," he whispered. He scrubbed a hand down his face, forcing himself to keep watching. He needed to see all of it. The footage jumped. Another clip. Different angle. This one from earlier that day. Clara in the kitchen, crushing pills. Slow, deliberate, mixing them into food. Patrick's stomach dropped. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't concern. It was planned. He watched as Clara paused, just for a second, then continued stirring. No hesitation. Patrick's phone vibrated. A message from Clara. Any update? How is Mama? Patrick didn't respond. He couldn't. His hands were shaking now. The footage continued. Mama Eliza collapsing. Clara stepping back. Not calling for help. Not touching her. Just watching. Patrick slammed the phone face down on the chair beside him. His heart pounded violently. This wasn't just cruelty. This was a crime. He looked down the empty hospital corridor. His mother lay unconscious behind a closed door, and the woman he had married was sitting somewhere nearby, rehearsing her next lie. Patrick stood, decision settling over him like steel. He wasn't confronting Clara. Not yet. First, he needed everything. Every angle. Every recording. Every moment. Because if he moved too soon, she would deny it. Spin it. Escape. And Patrick would never let that happen. He opened the app again. This time, he tapped Download All Footage. The progress bar appeared. Slow. Painfully slow. And as it crept forward, Patrick understood something with devastating clarity. Christmas morning was supposed to be about gifts. About forgiveness. About family. Instead, it would be about truth. And when the footage finished downloading, someone's life was going to end as they knew it. Clara thought she still had time. That was her mistake. She sat in the private hospital lounge scrolling through her phone, rehearsing grief the way she rehearsed everything else. The right posture, the right pauses, the right amount of worry. She had changed clothes. Soft colors now, muted makeup. The image of a devoted wife. When nurses passed, she stood quickly, asked questions, held her chest as if it hurt to breathe. Any update? She asked for the third time. She's stable, the nurse replied, but under observation. Stable. The word relaxed Clara's shoulders. Stable meant alive. Alive meant manageable. Patrick hadn't said much since they arrived. He'd barely looked at her. That worried her, but not enough. She assumed shock. Men always needed time. She walked over to him slowly, touching his arm. I know this is hard, she said softly, but we'll get through it. Together. Patrick nodded. Didn't speak. Didn't pull away. Clara took that as permission. She returned to her seat and sent a message. Ngozi. She didn't die, yet. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Ngozi. Then act normal. If he suspects anything, deny everything. Clara exhaled. She was good at normal. What she didn't know, what she couldn't see was Patrick standing just far enough away to read her reflection in the glass wall behind her. He watched her smile at her phone, watched the relief, and something in him went cold. Minutes later, Patrick received the notification. Download complete. He didn't check it again. He didn't need to. He already knew. Instead, he stood and straightened his jacket. Let's go home, he said calmly. Clara blinked. Home. They'll keep her overnight, Patrick continued. There's nothing we can do here. Clara hesitated, then nodded. Yes, you're right. On the drive back, silence filled the car. Streetlights passed like ticking seconds. Clara stared out the window, already adjusting her story. Patrick stared ahead, counting steps. At the house, Clara headed toward the bedroom. Patrick stopped her. We need to talk tomorrow, he said. Her heart skipped. About what? About everything. He kissed her forehead gently. Too gently. I'm exhausted, he added. Get some rest. That night, Clara slept. Deeply. Peacefully. For the first time in days. Patrick did not. He sat alone in his study, laptop open, security footage playing silently on loop. He took screenshots, saved timestamps, packed everything up. Then he opened a document. Prenuptial agreement. Clause 14. Elder abuse. Automatic forfeiture. Patrick leaned back. So this was how it ended. Not with shouting, not with rage, but with evidence. And timing. He checked the calendar. December 25th. Christmas morning. When everyone would be home. When gifts would be opened. When the truth would have witnesses. Patrick closed the laptop. Tomorrow Clara would believe she was safe. Tomorrow she would smile. Tomorrow she would lose everything. Christmas morning arrived quietly. Too quietly. The mansion looked exactly the way it was supposed to. White lights glowing softly, the tree standing proud in the corner, wrapped gifts arranged with care. Carols played low from hidden speakers, filling the air with warmth that felt almost mocking. Clara woke up smiling. She stretched beneath the silk sheets, the nightmare of the past 2 days already softening in her memory. Mama Eliza was alive. That was what mattered. Alive meant manageable. Alive meant silence could still be bought. She dressed carefully. Cream dress, minimal jewelry, the look of peace. When she stepped into the living room, Patrick was already there. Calm, composed, unreadable. "Merry Christmas," she said brightly. "Merry Christmas," Patrick replied. He smiled. Clara relaxed. Breakfast was served. Housekeepers moved quietly. Laughter floated in from the garden where a few relatives had begun to arrive. Everything was normal. Too normal. Patrick gathered everyone in the living room just before gift time. "I want us all together," he said. "Before we open anything." Clara felt a flicker of unease, but she smiled. Of course he wanted a moment. Sentimental Patrick. Patrick stood near the television. He held a remote. "There's something I need to share," he said calmly. "Something important." Clara's smile tightened. Patrick pressed a button. The screen lit up. At first, it showed the boys' quarters. Mama Eliza sitting quietly at the table, praying. Clara's breath caught. The footage played. Her entering the room, setting the bowl down, grabbing her jaw, forcing the spoon. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a glass. "No," Clara whispered. The footage cut. Another clip. The kitchen. Clara crushing pills, mixing them. Her hands steady, deliberate. The room exploded. "What is this?" Jesus Christ. "Patrick!" Patrick didn't raise his voice. "He didn't need to. This," he said evenly, "is what my wife did to the woman who raised me." Clara stepped forward, shaking. "You don't understand." Patrick held up a hand. The room fell silent. "There is more," he said. Clara's heart pounded violently. "More?" Patrick turned to face her fully now. "You tried to poison my mother," he said. "You planned it. You staged it. You lied." Clara's legs weakened. "This isn't over," Patrick continued. "But it is finished." He looked around the room. "Anyone who thinks this is a misunderstanding is welcome to leave now." No one moved. Clara realized too late that this was not a conversation. It was a verdict. Patrick turned back to her. "Clara," he said quietly, "do you have anything you'd like to say before the police arrive?" The word hit her like a slap. "Police." Clara's mouth opened. No sound came out. And that was when she understood. There would be no explaining this. No crying her way out. No rewriting the story. The truth had witnesses now. And witnesses don't forget. The police arrived quietly. No sirens. No drama. Just uniforms stepping into a room that had already decided Clara's fate. Clara stood frozen in the center of the living room, the Christmas tree glowing behind her like a cruel joke. Wrapping paper lay torn at her feet, gifts unopened, smiles erased. "This is a misunderstanding," she finally said, her voice cracking. "Patrick, please." Patrick didn't look at her. He was standing beside Mom Eliza now. The old woman sat in a chair, wrapped in a warm shawl, hospital bracelet still on her wrist, pale, weak, alive. An officer stepped forward. "Madam, we have footage and medical reports. You're coming with us." Clara's breath came fast. She looked around the room, at the relatives who wouldn't meet her eyes, at the friends who had stepped back physically, as if cruelty were contagious, at the housekeepers who stared at the floor. "No," Clara whispered. "You don't understand. I was protecting my marriage." That was when Mama Eliza spoke. Her voice was soft, but it carried. "I never wanted your place," she said, looking at Clara with something worse than anger. "Sadness. I prayed every day that you would be happy." The room went still. Patrick closed his eyes. Clara shook her head violently. "You're lying. You planned this. You took him from me." Mama Eliza's hands trembled as she lifted them. "I found him under a bridge. He was dying. I chose him." Every face turned. Patrick's jaw tightened. "I chose him," Mama Eliza repeated. And I would choose him again. But I never chose to hurt you." The words landed heavier than shouting ever could. The officer gently took Clara's arm. She pulled away once, then again. "You can't do this," she cried. "This is my house." Patrick finally looked at her. "No," he said calmly. "It never was." Clara laughed then, high, broken, unrecognizable. As they led her toward the door, she twisted back one last time. "You'll regret this," she screamed. "Both of you." Patrick didn't answer. The door closed behind her. Silence followed. Mama Eliza exhaled slowly, as if releasing years of fear. Patrick knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have seen it sooner." Mama Eliza shook her head. "Love makes us blind sometimes, but truth opens the eyes." Outside, a police car door slammed shut. Inside, Christmas lights continued to glow. But something dark had finally been removed from the house. What Patrick didn't know yet, what no one in that room knew, was that Clara's fall wasn't finished. Because some people don't accept consequences quietly. And from a holding cell, Clara would make one last move. The holding cell smelled like metal and regret. Clara sat on the narrow bench, her arms wrapped around herself, replaying the footage in her mind again and again. Not the violence, the silence. The moment the room had turned against her, she wasn't afraid yet. Fear came later. Right now, she was calculating. She had always been good at that. When the lawyer arrived, Clara straightened immediately. "I was framed," she said before he could even sit. "My husband planned this. His mother planned it. They want my money." The lawyer glanced at the file. "The footage is extensive," he said carefully. "Footage can be edited," Clara snapped. "You know that." He studied her face. "Why would you poison an old woman?" "I didn't," Clara said without hesitation. She was already sick, confused, unstable. "I was trying to help her." The lie rolled off her tongue smoothly. She'd practiced it her whole life. That same night, Patrick received a call. "She's claiming elder neglect," the lawyer said. "Says your mother manipulated you, that she staged the collapse." Patrick closed his eyes. Of course she was. "She wants a settlement," the lawyer continued. "Quiet resolution, no trial." Patrick didn't answer immediately. He walked into Mama Eliza's room instead. She sat on her bed, folding laundry slowly, her movements careful but steady. The bruises on her jaw had faded to yellow. Her eyes were clear. "Mama," Patrick said softly. "She's still lying." Mama Eliza smiled faintly. "She always will." Patrick sat beside her. "If we go to trial, it will be ugly. They'll dig into your past, into everything." Mama Eliza nodded. "I have nothing to hide." Patrick hesitated. "They'll find out about the bridge." Mama Eliza's hands paused. Then she resumed folding. "Then they will know I chose you," she said calmly. "And I will say it without shame." Patrick swallowed hard. The next morning, Clara was brought into a small interview room. She smoothed her hair, prepared her face. Across the table sat Patrick, alone. Her heart leapt. "I knew you'd come," she said softly. "You always do." Patrick placed a single document on the table. "No settlement," he said. No silence. Clara's smile faltered. "You think a trial will help you?" she snapped. "You think the world won't judge her when they find out she's not even your real mother?" Patrick leaned forward. "That's the difference between us," he said quietly. "You think blood creates value. I know choice does." Clara stood abruptly. "You'll destroy her." Patrick stood too. "No," he said. "You tried to." He turned and walked out. Clara watched the door close. For the first time, she felt it. Real fear. Because lies only work when someone is willing to protect them. And Patrick wasn't anymore. As the door locked behind him, Clara realized something too late. She hadn't lost because she was caught. She had lost because the truth was stronger than her. And outside that cell, Mama Eliza was no longer silent. She was ready to speak. The courtroom was silent. Not the restless silence of boredom. The kind that presses against the chest, where everyone is holding their breath at the same time. Mama Eliza sat at the witness stand. Small, straight-backed, wrapped in a simple blue dress. No jewelry, no drama. Just truth. Across the room, Clara sat beside her lawyer. eyes sharp, lips tight, confidence stitched together with desperation. She looked expensive, controlled, like someone who still believed appearance could save her. The judge leaned forward. "Madam Eliza," he said gently. "You may speak." Mama Eliza placed both hands on the rail. Her voice was soft, but the room leaned in. "I found him under a bridge," she said. A murmur rippled through the gallery. "It was raining," Mama Eliza continued. "He was wrapped in cloth. His umbilical cord was still there. He was crying, but weak, like he was already leaving." Patrick stared straight ahead, jaw tight. "I had no children," Mama Eliza said. "God closed my womb, but that night, he opened my arms." She paused. "I could have walked away. Many people did. But I picked him up. And from that moment, he was my son." Clara shifted. Her lawyer stood. "Objection, this is emotional storytelling." The judge raised a hand. "Overruled. Let her finish." Mama Eliza looked directly at Clara then. "I never asked Patrick for a house," she said calmly. "I never asked for money. I only wanted peace." Her voice trembled, just slightly. "But on Christmas Eve, peace was taken from me." The courtroom went still. "She forced food into my mouth," Mama Eliza said. "I begged her to stop. I asked her what I had done. She said I existed." Gasps. Clara shook her head violently. "Lies," she whispered. Mama Eliza didn't raise her voice. "She said I was stealing," she continued. "But I only gave." Patrick closed his eyes. The prosecutor stood. "No further questions." Clara's lawyer rose slowly. "Madam Eliza," he said, "isn't it true you lied to Patrick about his birth?" Mama Eliza nodded. "Yes." A murmur again. "Then how can we trust you now?" Mama Eliza didn't hesitate. "Because I lied to protect him," she said. "She hurt me to protect herself." Silence. The difference was clear. The judge looked at Clara. "Do you wish to testify?" Clara stood. This was her moment. She straightened her dress. "They're manipulating you," she said, voice steady. "I was afraid. Anyone would be. I was protecting my marriage." Patrick looked at her for the last time. "No," he said quietly from his seat. "You were protecting your control." Clara's voice cracked. "She's not even your real mother." Patrick stood. "She chose me," he said, "every day. And you chose cruelty once, and it revealed everything." The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. Elder abuse, attempted poisoning, fraudulent misrepresentation. Clara collapsed into her chair. This time there was no one left to look at. Weeks later, Patrick stood on a small balcony at sunrise. Mama Eliza joined him, wrapped in a shawl. "Are you all right, Mama?" he asked. She smiled. "I am at peace." Patrick handed her a folder. Inside was a deed, not hidden, not secret. "In your name," he said, "where everyone can see." Mama Eliza touched his hand. "I already have everything," she replied. "You lived." Patrick nodded. Behind them, the city woke. Somewhere else, in a quiet cell, Clara stared at a wall that couldn't be negotiated with. And Mama Eliza? She went home, not to a mansion, but to dignity, because motherhood is not blood. It is choice. And sometimes the people who give us everything are the ones who ask for nothing at all.